Well, thanks for coming, everybody.
You're welcome.
We're pretty fired up about this.
Oh, yeah.
Good. You obviously know who we are, so there's no real need for introduction. Couple things before we get started. So obviously, you guys all have a book in front of you. Everybody have one?
Yeah.
Yours is empty. That's on purpose. That should say something.
Wow.
So what we're using these books is kind of like ways for you to help track your own stuff throughout the course. Right now, we have only week 1 in there, so they don't jump too far ahead. We're trying to start this really small and work up to it. So you've got some week 1 basic instructions, go through the whole the point and intent of the course, and hang on to your book for the remainder of the course, just so that you can continue to chart and monitor your own progress. Kind of works as a logbook.
I think the plan is going to be to email the ensuing weeks, and you guys print them out and put them in there.
Yeah, because we already noticed we're having a hard time. With shift, we're catching everybody at all times. So if we shoot that second week out in an email, then people can print it out and do it. If you attend class, then you don't have to print it out. So one of the many benefits of attending class, just besides getting to see those two beautiful things.
And we really think the interaction part is going to be a big part of the class. So the more often you can attend, the more you can promote other people that are in the class attending. I think the better off, the more productive the class is going to be. You can do it both ways, but I think the interaction is going to be a big part of it. So try and show up if you can.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I guess first off, what the hell are we doing and why are we doing it? We started off with this slide, and this was a slide that we kind of did in conjunction with the university. That's been a big topic lately. That more firefighters committed suicide in 2017 than died in the line of duty. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because everybody sees the fire service and EMS as a dangerous job, right? You know, probably more people die in our line of work than in many other lines of work, but we are slaying ourselves more often than we're slaying the dragon anymore, or than we're being slain by the dragon. So the three of us started to get together and brainstorm as to what can we do. We're not psychologists. We're in leadership positions. We try to take a leadership role. We're trying to figure out, well, what are the controllable items? What are the things that we can do to try to give our people a little more resilience training, a little more adaptability, explored a bunch of different programs, and we came up with this and we pitched it 2 weeks ago at the state safety conference up in Phoenix? What was that called?
Arizona Department of Health Services
Resiliency Conference. Most of the people throughout the state loved it. In fact, they wanted to steal our program before we even said, hey, we don't know if this is going to work or not. We're hoping. We got a lot of theories, but the truth is we're just trying to help firefighters as problem solvers. We're trying to work to solve our own problem and work together to help each other. I think the EAP services that we have now, we're getting a lot of customers coming in and using our peer support team, using our EAP, all of that stuff is great. And now what this part is hopefully getting a better foundation and building block of kind of your inner work, the stuff that's going on, so that you can have more resilience yourself and be able to identify when somebody else is struggling. So
a little bit more of a proactive approach as opposed to the EAP being kind of you're behind the 8 ball. Hopefully this will give you some skills to deal with some of the stressors before they become a real problem.
yeah, we can't change the fact that we're sleep deprived. We can't change the fact that we have family stressors, we're exposed to trauma, all of that stuff. But how we process it, how we identify it in ourselves and other people, that's kind of what we're attacking with this.
And the whole thing is really about what you put into it yourself. It's really an individual journey. What you get out of it is really, it's all up to y'all. So there'll be things you can do every day, but it's really up to you guys, the amount of effort you want to put into it to see if it really helps, so.
Yeah, so we're taking a brain approach to math and science. You know, one of the things that we think about, like transitional fire attack and some of the ways that we've been able to sell change in the fire service is through math and science. Like, oh wow, that's amazing that if you squirt water on the fire, you're better off than if you wait to squirt water on the fire. And we were able to prove that through science and math. And so we have all of this stuff now that we know about the brain, we know about neuroplasticity, we know about all the different neurochemicals, all the things that are taking place in our brains, and we know that there are very simple things that we can start with, very simple, basic breathing techniques that will get you from a sympathetic response to a parasympathetic. It takes 5 minutes. So we're trying to start really small with, hey, we're going to teach you how to breathe this week. Hey, we're going to teach you how to do this, and just chip away at it. Just give me 5 minutes twice a day, and build on it, and build on it. And your brain, we'd love to be able to get neuroimaging before and after, but it's wicked expensive, and the university wasn't willing to pony up that part. But they've done enough brain scans to go, wow, here's a lit up crazy brain that can't control itself, and here's one that learned how to breathe, learned how to relax, learned how to control itself. And they're night and day different.
And it really only takes a matter of minutes. It's not something that, well, it takes that 6 to 8 weeks to get you there, but then to teach yourself to do those techniques, and it really only takes a matter of minutes to calm yourself down, calm your brain down.
Huh? All right, let's do this. You want to be slide man?
Sure.
I'll just yell
I
slide.
don't know, my fingers are getting progressively more numb.
Other computer.
Stop doing this.
I'm just gonna say slide
What do I push?
down. Yeah. All right. State of UMS mental health. Let's bring up this whole slide. Down. Down. Dude off. Okay. So we already touched on it, but suicide is the 10th leading cause for all ages. Suicide is a big deal. You know, one of the questions that you guys had obviously on the onboarding is how many suicide calls have you been on? And I think everybody would probably agree, even if you haven't been here very long, too many. That was one of the things that stuck out when I first got into the fire service, is like one of my first suicide calls, and I thought, oh my God, why isn't this in the news? Because like this person died and hung himself. And so I figured that anytime somebody dies, it would be a big deal. And then you go into the business for a while and you're like, people are finding creative ways to kill themselves all the time. So if we already know that people are doing that, and then we know that we're at a higher risk, by 2 to 3 times higher risk as first responders, we have a mental health problem. I think the US has a mental health problem with all the suicide stuff, and ours is triple. So we've got to do something about it.
Hey, Scott, did you want to touch on the relationship with the U of A before we got into it too much? Or
You can,
what do you mean?
because I don't know what you're talking about. So. Let's do it.
You just volunteered yourself.
Yeah.
Just the fact that the U of A, the relationship between us and the U of A, they're going to be studying this. Their study is completely separate from the class, so try and be as honest as you can in those surveys. I know we already had the pre-survey. There's going to be a post-survey. Just be as honest as you can that their study is not necessarily related to what we do. We're not going to see any of the results of those surveys. So if you didn't put the effort into the class that you really wanted to, just say those things.
Yeah, be honest about it. Because we got to figure out, like, it's easy and we know that you can change the brain, but we want to know what obstacles are preventing you from being able to do that. You know, everybody's got too much to do to take time out, you know, for 15 minutes to take care of yourself. So we want to try to help you with those obstacles throughout so that you stick with the course, and we'll have, you know, consistent dialogue on it. Slide.
Should be good.
Okay. We
Touched
have
on
this
that.
stuff. And all these PowerPoint slides are gonna be available each week if you click into our, the PTS, or the resilience part of the Boulder app, so. Good slide.
It's all right there. Go back to that one. Go to the next one. All right, so why are we doing this now? Obviously, and I'm just gonna just go right at it. We don't want another Jose. Jose Samaniego was real near and dear to all of us. We are trying to avoid another situation like Jose. I know Jose would be super proud that we are doing something like this. So, you know, we're kind of doing this for Jose because I know this would mean a lot to him. House Bill 2502, treatment for PTSD. So there's going to be some information coming out soon that you can go get up to 36 free visits with a counselor or psychologist of your choice if you meet one of 6 questions. I don't know the exact 6, but it's if you go on a child drowning, if you witness a death, if you, there's some more, but there's going to be some more information coming out on that. That's one of the reasons why we're doing it. We have the app out now that you guys can access. It's a culture shift towards EAP. We get many phone calls that people are looking for assistance, and that's awesome. We'd rather people come forth asking for assistance than holding it in. So that's a sign of a good culture change, and I credit that to Jose. I think it's awesome that people are willing to come forward with their issues and to seek help. You know, PTSD specialists don't grow on trees. There's not a lot of them out there. It's a new thing for us in the fire service, so we're really trying to get on the forefront of that to avoid it.
Yeah, and you know, we've had a few folks exit the organization that have gone through a lot of different treatment, and kind of some of the challenges that we're having with the treatment now is you go into a counselor and you unload all your stuff, and then the feedback that we're getting from some folks is like, yeah, and they said, oh man, I'm all messed up, I've seen too much, I gotta get out. Well, that's not our goal, is to, you know, somebody has to do this job, and it's an awesome job, and there's so much that makes it rewarding. There's a reason we were called to this, but it's also very difficult. So we've got to balance, hey, let's get treatment, but the solution isn't leave. Like for most people, you can't leave, and you don't really want to leave. So we want to be able to bounce back from some of these calls and some of the different things that we're having, because besides being exposed to all of this stuff, we also have family challenges. We also go through kid stuff. We go through divorce stuff. We lose our parents most likely, you know, throughout the course of this age range. So we deal with all of the life things too that everybody else does. That's very, very difficult. So the solution through our counselors wasn't to acknowledge that this is hard and to leave it. It was to acknowledge that it's hard and get some building blocks to thrive in. Slide.
So some challenges we had were just developing a program that is specifically for first responders. That's really what we wanted to do, customize it to first responders only, to the unique stressors that we face on the job. We all know that every day something new comes up, a different type of call where you're like, man, that sucked. Hopefully this won't affect me. So it's hard for us to figure something out, to customize it to y'all, and we hope we did just that. The 8 weeks that we're going to be covering, here's the 8 weeks that we're going to be going over. The first week today will be the attention in the now. We're going to go over a Navy SEAL box breathing exercise and just commanding your presence. And you'll see the week 2, authenticity, judgment, acceptance, compassion, ego, goals, and then finally integration. Each week will be something different with a different type of exercise that you can practice throughout that week. So, timeline starting today, obviously. We did the surveys already. You'll do another survey at the end of the 8 weeks, and then one 3 months after that. Complete in June, and then September will be the 3-month follow-up. And I believe it'll be all the same. I don't think the U of A is changing the survey. I think it's all the same.
And this is more part of the study stuff is where are we at? Where's your baseline mental health now? Did any of this help? If it didn't help, what were the challenges to it so that we can make it better? And did it stick? That's why I want to do the 3-month follow-up to see if you're still using any of this stuff that you learned. Slide. All right, so we'll go into week 1's instruction. Anybody have any questions before we get started? Everybody want to run for it? It's facing your fears and your inner demons isn't easy, Benji.
I figured it out.
Oh, congratulations. Well, okay, that's one coping mechanism. All right, so what is this whole mindful self-leadership? What we did is we started searching around. We found mindful-based stress reduction certification courses, and we started looking at first as like, oh, can we get certified in this, and can we bring like a certified teacher to come in? And we vetted out a couple teachers, said, no, that's not gonna work, because they're a little bit too much on the hippie side, not really relatable. We want to attack this from the science side, not anything that's too out there that people can't grasp, but people can all grasp math and science. So that's why we're hitting it from this angle. So the folks that we kind of vetted out this whole 8 weeks from, this guy is a doctor from the Netherlands. He took mindfulness and made it a science. And then we parsed it out and said, well, this is going to work for our people. This isn't going to work. And we're giving our best guess as to what's going to be palatable for the group. All right, I think we hit it. What is this? So the origin of mindfulness, it's not like a lot, there are some stigmas with it that we're trying to get around. It's not to just chill, it's not to glom on to any type of religious belief. It's not a way to have difficult thoughts and then just change them. Or to not be concerned about it. I know that when I first got interested in it, I was like, well, if all I care about is the present and I'm not looking at goals and I'm not looking at future, then I'm not going to be, I'm going to lose the drive, I'm going to lose what makes me amazing. And that's not the case because a lot of that drive is unhealthy. So,
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's not going to be easy. Doing mindfulness type stuff does take some self-discipline. It may get redundant, but you just have to trust the process. There's science-based evidence that the stuff does work. So it's not going to be easy. It can be difficult at times, but just trust the process and stick with it, just like anything else.
We were in a conference in San Francisco, and the amount of research that's being done about mindfulness and the effects of mindfulness, it's like off the charts these days. So it's not something that we're throwing at you because we think that maybe it could possibly work. There's real science behind it. There was doctors from Harvard, from Berkeley, from across the country, from other countries that were coming in and talking about their research, and the stuff, it works, and they have numerous studies about the effects of it. So stick with it, stick with the program, and it'll work for you as well.
you know what I thought was cool about that too is, so we have all these doctors, there's 90% doctors and psychologists, and they're all in different specialties in their field, and they're trying to incorporate a lot of this training to get people off of heavy meds, off of all of the stuff that just keeps people stuck in a cycle and doesn't actually solve the problem. One thing that was cool was a pain doctor that works primarily off of the brain and snaps people out of their pain cycles because you have the actual pain of the event, and then everything that your head says is projecting or is wrong, or, oh, I'm never going to be able to live this kind of quality of life. And all of these things tense you up and make the pain just take a stranglehold on you. So just in a simple pain event, you can break that cycle and actually live with, finding folks, old ladies playing tennis at 70 years old with jacked up backs because they can get past that pain cycle and live healthier lives. So it's pretty awesome. It is super popular right now. They're really trying to integrate it in a lot of medicine. I think we're just trying to get around the stigma of it being a hippie practice or a religious practice, because while it can be, it's also very good for us.
Looks like you, Chris.
We got a picture of him up there.
Don't want to laugh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
More and more studies are coming out on its effectiveness, and ours is going to be one of them, hopefully. Ours is going to be a study. We don't know if it's going to be effective or not, but it's going to be vetted out and hopefully used throughout the country. Like we said, they're integrating it in clinical practice along with, if anybody's done formal therapy like cognitive behavioral therapy or different things through a psychologist. Cognitive therapy is basically writing out and trying to find a way to formulate your thoughts, and then also rationalizing it with a lot of what we're learning here.
And the eating awareness training, actually there's a lot of good information out there on the microbiomes of the gut and the leaky gut, and how, probiotic type food is super beneficial for this type of training and stuff as well. So
Because the gut and brain link.
yeah.
Roots, it's a super old practice, 2,500 or 3,000 years ago. Gee whiz stuff that you can look on your PowerPoint if you're interested in learning more about its roots. All right, so if we try to define it, we're trying to keep one's complete attention to the experience on a moment-to-moment basis in an open and non-judgmental way. Sounds pretty simple, right? We're all just living in the present, not judging each other, staying open, not judging ourselves. So if you got it down, awesome. You can help teach us. If you're working on it like we are, then it's challenging.
It's amazing how many, we were just talking about it this morning, how many conversations you'll have with somebody. And Chris was even saying, he's like, every once in a while I have to remind myself to pay attention because I might need to respond in an intelligent fashion. It's like, you have conversations all the time where you walk away and you're just like, I don't even know what we just talked about. So
I'm terrible
hopefully
with that.
this will help change that.
Well, and you'll see a lot of people too.
I know, right? That's who I work with. It's,
Well, shoot, man, you go up the ranks too, and even as a captain, when everybody's relying on you to vent about your problems and there are different things going on, and then they just assume that you're retaining every single piece of information. Then you multiply that by 1,000 conversations a day, and before you know it, you're just oversaturated. And like, I have days where I listened a lot, but I don't even know what happened. Hopefully I'm retaining most of what's going on, but it's not easy.
Or the other thing that happens a lot is you have a conversation with somebody and then your phone goes off, or you get a text, or you get distracted. So it's not just that it's almost like the cards are stacked against you to pay attention these days. It's getting more and more difficult with all the technology and whatnot. So we gotta find something to fight that.
The PhD that did the first kind of certified version of this, which is taking a lot of it and just putting it in a way that's digestible over 8 weeks. He's not our overlord or going to be your overlord, so. That guy's not gonna make you drink the Kool-Aid by the end of it and go see the spaceship.
He looks like that, though.
All right, there are 5 core components that we're going throughout the course. And it's working to build our attention, to stay open with what's going on and what we're thinking, accept a lot of things that are beyond our control, and make better choices. Slide. Are you on your phone?
I'm trying to.
Hey, it's not his fault the car's stacked against
Well,
you.
I got one decent hand today. I can't even do two hands.
Okay then. This is all being filmed, by the way.
I won't tell you why I only have one decent hand.
Yeah, that's fine. Just,
All right, so first, paying attention. Paying attention to what is happening in the current moment. There's nothing you can do about the past. There's nothing you can do about the future. It's what's in front of you, paying attention to that current moment. Being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your physical sensations, your emotions, your feelings, not overreacting, staying calm, and just paying attention and staying in that present moment.
anybody ever flipped out on somebody before?
Oh, yeah. Kurt?
No? Where it just went to a complete emotional response and you reacted rather than responding. And that's kind of what we're trying to build, is that pause in between stimulus and response, is that visceral gut thing when somebody sets you off or something's not quite right, and before you fire out words or actions that you can't catch and bring back, it's just give me a second. And then responding like a professional. Because you'll hear a lot of stupid things throughout the course of your life. You need to respond professionally. Slide. This is just breaking down those 5 core components. We're going to go in depth through all of this stuff, so it's just like slides. We can probably skip through all of this. Yeah. Simple. Mindlessness. Now, I know we had a few questions on the survey for this one. Is like, do you ever just go somewhere without knowing how you got there, or have to double check things, or break stuff because you're a bull in a china shop? A lot of different things that we kind of just automatically do, right, without even thinking about it. And some of those automatizations are good, but we program ourselves with our behaviors and what we're doing throughout the day. And if 90% of what we're doing is automatic, then we got to be sure that what we're programming into ourselves and our behaviors is good stuff, is positive stuff, is productive.
A good story on that. I moved about 3 months ago, and a week after I had moved, I got in the truck, we left football practice, and I was driving home, and I drove to the wrong house.
And that does not surprise anybody.
Pulling into the driveway before Tommy was like, Dad, we don't live here anymore.
Yeah, and one of the last ones is being preoccupied with the future of the past, and that's something that I struggle with. I'm always worried about what's going to happen in the future or what happened in the past. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it, absolutely not. Going through this program has helped me realize that staying in that present moment is way more beneficial for your mind, because you'll stress out about this or that, or, you know, what's Colin going to do tomorrow? I got worried about that. How am I going to cover it? I'm just kidding. But, no,
Well, it makes you a lot more efficient, though, too, with what you are spending time doing, because you're not just burning that brain energy worrying about stuff that hasn't happened yet.
So those are the 5 things to practice over. It's on the slide as well. Keep going, Colin.
The ability to do this is kind of prevented by our automaticity, and automaticity is our 2nd week. Right now, we're just going to learn basic stuff, but then we're going to get into just how autopilot you run every single moment of your life.
And there really is going to be a correlation between what we do in the fire service and being mindful. It kind of feels a little bit like we're just throwing a lot of stuff out there that isn't going to connect to being a better firefighter or leader, but ultimately that's the goal.
Right. So it's self-leadership. We're gonna incorporate things in lots of little creative ways with small daily practices. You rarely will have to do, I don't think you'll ever have to do more than 30 minutes a day.
Not even
Like 30
close.
minutes is kind of how it maxes out. But if you think about 30-minute, it might be tough at first to find a 30-minute window, but that 30 minutes of brain work is gonna go far better than anything that you think you're doing to be productive in your life. It's worth it because we're all worth it.
And there was even, I was surprised, one of the guys, Dr. Andrew Wild, that's kind of the head of the integrative medicine department at the U of A, he spoke on some of the breath work and very similar to the box breathing that we're gonna do today. And his theory on the breath work was actually, it was less than what we're gonna ask you to do. So even the 5 minutes twice a day sounds very minimal. What he was even saying, his breath work is maybe 2 minutes twice a day. And he said over the course of 8 weeks, there are multiple studies that it's guaranteed to have the effect that you're looking for. So, you know, is 5 minutes twice a day is pretty minimal. You can do it in even less than that. But it's something that you can do throughout the day at your convenience.
All right, so let's talk about the present moment. Let's do this exercise. So let's just take a minute, kind of sit back and think about one of your most favorite moments, whether it's the birth of your child, you know, vacation that you went on. Just kind of take a few breaths and put yourself in that moment. So kind of those moments that we are able to remember and recall as like our greatest hits or a slideshow of when we've been happiest. If you switch on the slide, if you're able to put yourself exactly in that position. One of the things that we often get trapped in is, in that very moment, could you say without a doubt that everything was perfect in your life? And that's why you're able to have a beautiful moment. Because chances are you still had bills to pay, chances are there were still very difficult ancillary things that were happening in your life, because that's what life is. So it's not always perfect, yet inside we're able to have beautiful present awareness moments. And the best way that we can recall them is because we're actually fully in it. Like I remember taking a hike in Switzerland and being at the base of this glacier and just sitting there for a second. And I can picture every single piece about that moment. I can picture exactly how the rocks were, how the snow was, how the little different trees started to grow back their leaves as we were getting close to it. And my life was a wreck at the time. Like I was going through a divorce, I was going through all kinds of stuff. But it didn't take away from the fact that there are beautiful moments to be had at all times. So I know that that's one that works for me, and it helps me to understand that, you know, a lot of times we get caught in this trap of, well, I can be happy if this person would just stop effing around. Or I could be happy if this would change in my life. Or I could be happy if this was different. That's not really a true statement. Some of those things might alleviate what your current problems are. Well, we're always going to have problems. We're always going to have more stuff thrown at us. The next bus is coming full of chaos. So we've got to be able to weather that and still work through the fact that our lives are pretty good and we've got good things going for us.
A good example of that is, I think we're probably all in the same boat. I would be happy if I could only make this much money. But everybody knows as you get a raise and promote, nothing changes. You make more money, you just spend it. So it's the same kind of concept.
Yeah. So if we're we're all here right now, but where has your mind, and I'll even take some examples. Who's been someplace else other than right here in their mind since we've been sitting here? Probably everybody, because that's what happens. It's a funny version of it is when we were at the State Resiliency Conference, it was about 2:30, we just gave our presentation, you know, everybody's on board with all these different resiliency things, and I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to be a good student and pay attention, and I'm like, that drive back to Tucson is going to be about an hour and a half, and the NCAA championship is going to be going on, so maybe we can, I don't know if we'll make it. Should we find a bar and just watch it here? And then you go, whoa. And then you're back in the present. And then you're paying attention for a while, and then, you asshole, you drove here. If you go drink at a bar right now or you're watching the game, like what kind of an idiot would do that? So back into it. And that happens just all throughout the course of time and in everything that we do. We're trying to give our best attention, but the mind likes to drift. The mind is automatic. It's going to peel out other things. It's going to be interested in other things. It's going to be stimulated by other things, like a little buzz in your pocket, and then you got to see who's texting you, and it's constantly in distraction. So we're just we're not saying that you're going to be able to be present all the time. We're just trying to increase the space that you're present versus you're worried about the past or you're thinking about the future.
There's a good slide for that.
That's a great slide.
So here's Colin, and he's preoccupied with what he did yesterday because he's sitting in class. He's worried about getting stung by a scorpion. His hand hurts.
The worst part about this picture is my hair is so much better than that. That's gotta be the worst hair day ever.
But you don't know what he's thinking about because all you see is that face. So you don't know that he's hanging out in the past. And then all of a sudden he drifts into the future with what he's got in his to-do list, and hopefully he can remember which house he's driving to. And then here's the slide that we talked about. What we're trying to do with the present moment is we're taking that little sliver that we're actually in the present, and we're just trying to increase it. You're never going to fully get rid of the past. You're never going to fully get rid of the future. There are uses in that. We have to learn some things from the past. We have to do some planning for the future. But we want to increase that space where we're actually actively engaged in life.
I think what causes the most stress and anxiety and fear is worrying about the future, worrying about the past. What could I have changed in the past? What's going to happen in the future? I think worrying about that is what causes undue stress, the depressions, the undue panics. I think focusing, practicing that mindfulness on that now, thinking about, you know, cool moments that's happened in your life, staying in that present moment. I think that is a huge key to just staying calm and you know, being present in the moment.
So, thinking. We all have to still think, though. And it is a powerful tool. It's just difficult to turn off. And if anybody's tried to think their way into falling asleep, you know what I mean about that. Especially when you have something to do in the morning that you've decided is super important, like not miss a flight, or something that's going on in the morning, you say, I have to get a good night's sleep. So I'm going to use my thinking brain to force myself to go to sleep. Does that ever work?
Coming back from a 2 a.m. call, laying in bed, thinking about trying to go back to sleep, it does not work. It's impossible. It's miserable. It's a good example.
Right. So we want to use our thoughts and our processor to take care of business on a day-to-day basis, but we need to be able to shut it off. And that's where people get stuck in those anxiety loops a lot of times, or you're about to lay down before you go into, you know, the night part of your shift, and you're like, well, should I even try right now? Because we've had 3 calls. I'm probably just going to get another call if I go to sleep. But I also need to go to sleep. And then you're just thinking yourself into nonsense because none of it really matters. You're either going to get one or you're not. And then not everything you think is true. Is that a true statement? A lot of the times that we think and we worry about stuff, or we make projections, or like, I can give an example, okay, I gotta go talk to this VC in the morning, and we disagree about something, and I know we're gonna have it out because this guy just doesn't get it, and so it's gonna be this big old thing, and you make it out to be something that is now causing you stress and anxiety. But then you have the actual event, you have the reality of it, you meet with that person in the morning. It could be a lot worse, or it could be pretty relaxed, but all that time you spent kind of vetting it out and then saying, okay, well then I'm gonna approach it this way, and I'm gonna, if he says this, because I know he's gonna say this, I'm gonna go take him out with this one. And I actually do that in relationships a lot, and I wouldn't recommend that with your spouse, is projecting all of this potential argument that doesn't actually exist. And it's all just a waste of time, because you don't know how it's gonna play out. So you just got to relax, give your best self, and adapt as these things come to you.
Anyone who has a public speaking phobia, I hate public speaking, but I always find that like the week leading up to it, I'm constantly worried about it. And then you get up there, and yeah, you might be nervous, but after, you know, a few minutes after you actually start talking, it kind of goes away. For me, that's a perfect example, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that are in the same boat. It's like, you spend all your time, all this energy and effort worrying about something that turns into nothing.
Yeah.
How many promotional processes have you gone through where you're freaked out the whole week? It's the worst week ever. You go through the promotional process, and afterwards you're like, that was easy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you get yourself so worked up about what's gonna happen. What are you gonna say in this simulator? What are you gonna say in this interview question? You know, you're so tripping out, and then afterwards you're like, oh my God, why did I get stressed out about that? It was actually kind of easy. You know?
And some of it is good because it's a motivating factor,
Right.
right? Nobody wants to look like a dumbass when you get up there. So you know, it motivates you to study and do the right things. But you have to have that energy in the right place. It can't be a negative energy. It's got to be something that you use for a positive.
All right. So where is our attention and our focus? Well, chances are it's everywhere except us, because I think we're living in a time where there's more distractors than at probably any other time in history. And that's why this thing has become such a challenge and a solution to it, because somebody's always pinging you, you've always got emails, you have any movie you ever want to watch in your entire life at your fingertips, you've always got something to distract yourself from what's going on, and people medicate with that.
How many times when you're bored or you have a couple moments to do whatever, you instantly go to your phone? I do it all the time. If I've got nothing to do, I'm instantly gonna go straight to my phone.
9 seconds in a turn lane, and you're gonna grab your phone all the time. So you're like, well, this is still gonna take 9 seconds. I got time to check this. It's just awful. It's addictive. And the attention comes from two separate forces. There's the stuff that stimulates both internally and externally, the thoughts that just come into our head, or the emotions, or the things that are happening to us that demands our attention. And then the times, right, all of those different things, your emotions, your thoughts, what's going on, your distractors, your Tony Levin, and then the one who regulates, like that very small moment where we're actually saying, I'm going to decide what I'm going to put my attention to, rather than just reacting to everything. Because we spend most of our time just reacting to whatever is demanding our attention at the time. And that can become problematic. All right, so let's take a seat for a second. Let's take some breaths. I'm going to time it. And let's stop your thoughts for 2 minutes. For 2 minutes, just think about nothing. Just nothing. Empty the brain.
Kurt, this should be easy for you.
You would think, but it's not.
Empty the brain. Ready? Go. Stop thinking. You started thinking, stop. Don't think about who just came in. Or left. Don't think. It's easy. Okay, that was 1 minute. That was just halfway. Give me some what you thought about while you're trying not to think.
Clock ticking.
Heard the clock?
Sounds, these tile, carpet tiles are peeling up.
Good. Give me some more. Huh?
The gray space,
The gray space?
just a gray space.
Okay. Okay. Who else has something?
Focus on breathing.
Okay. Who thought about something really weird? Well, they're trying not to think. What'd you think about?
Thought about
Falling asleep, and then it was like, no, Fairwolf falls asleep everywhere. He's probably asleep right now.
Okay. Yeah.
fall back in.
Your focus was Walt.
Yeah. Simplification and judging.
I spent 24 hours with them.
So that was only half the time. As the time continues to move forward, chances are it gets harder and harder. You start thinking more and more because you start getting bored, and then you're like, oh my God, when's this timer going to stop? And I wish you could have downloaded everybody to get the DJ horn, because I got this DJ horn that if you could just sit there and then anytime you think about something, just do. And then if everybody was sitting there and then anytime they had a thought, it'd just be lighting up by the end of it, because that's what our minds are doing. Our minds are
Constantly racing.
constantly, you're processing, you're judging, you're thinking, you're firing no matter what. So chances are there'd have been about 20 some DJ horns firing off at one given time or another. And so if we know the average brain has about 50,000 thoughts a day, I would challenge that first responders probably have more. And a lot of that can be good, and a lot of it can be worthless, unnecessary, destructive, and also just get to the point where it exhausts us. You only have so much energy to give in a day, and if your processor is just running all the time, you're burning that energy. There's some of the negative stories about the self. Anybody ever talk down to yourself when you get some quiet time, or you're judging or shaming an event from the past or how you could have handled it different? I know that I can be an addict to that sometimes myself.
I think everyone can. I think it's something that we all do. Fire service. What could I have done different on this call? What could I have done better for this patient? It's tough. You're always thinking negative, and it's just a tough deal. You always beat yourself up, and it's rough.
Yeah, and the goal is, right, to be the perfect human being. And because it's not possible, you get to consistently fail at everything that you do. It's a fun way to spend your time. That's right. So there's 3 different ways generally that we deal with our thoughts. One is suppress it. Like we said to a couple of the folks coming in, I'm just gonna ignore this and tuck it down to a nice ball of liver cancer that I'm gonna develop over the span of 10 years. We distract ourselves, whether with it's like, whatever media we're using, or you can distract yourself with drugs and alcohol. Or you can challenge, this is like the schizo thing, is you can challenge it and you can consistently fight that little voice in your head and be like, no, you're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do. And fight it and resist it and go through the challenging those thoughts. So the problem with dealing these thoughts in these ways are you have the rebound effect. You can suppress it and try to ignore it, but it's going to come back. You can distract yourself with drugs or alcohol, but it's a temporary solution. And then you can challenge, you can try to outthink your thoughts, but then you're stuck in your thinking head the whole time. All of it is a fight. But what we're trying to do with mindfully dealing with thoughts is we're kind of trying to observe the crazy in our head and take it less serious and let them kind of move through you, not attaching them, not giving them your attention, not giving them your time and energy.
Yeah, I think this is important. To observe your thoughts. Don't take them serious because they're just thoughts. More than likely you're making something up in your mind. Observe it, take it less serious, let them pass through. Let them pass through. Go back to that moment where you think about something awesome in your life that you've had in the past. Focus more on something like that. That's going to make you feel good than struggle with, a thought that's going to make you just drive yourself crazy. It's hard to do, but it works if you just be patient with it, give it a shot. Think about something that's irritating you. Think about something cool in your life.
And this is what gets us into those PTSD traps too, like thinking about that call over and over again and then saying, I don't want to think about it right now, so I'm going to distract myself. Or I'm going to challenge and say, no, even though I'm judging myself for how I could have done it differently or what I could have done to change the outcome, and then having to fight and outthink yourself, all of this time you're spending not present, either worrying about how you handled that call in the past or if you're going to get another one in the future, you're either building up that cortisol that's causing depression, or you're winding up with anxiety, which is going to lead to restlessness and having to suppress it more and having to distract it more. And these are the thought loops that our first responders are always getting stuck in. Thinking brain is always demanding attention. So what we're trying to do and what we're going to do in the first week is find a focal point, something that we can, whenever we're going off into any type of thought spiral, we can just center, we can focus, we can say, I'm going to put my attention right here. I'm not going to let all of this automatic stuff drive me and be its master. I'm going to actually say, okay, I'm going to anchor myself to the breath as one, our body, when we start to learn how to do some body awareness stuff. An object, a lot of people can sit and breathe and look at just a little candle flame flickering, just watch it and kind of zone out for a second, but you're focusing your attention, you're saying, I'm going to put my attention right here. Sounds people use nice meditation music. Like a song. Yeah.
But the breath is really the easiest one, because no matter where you are, you have that. So if you're out and about and the lady at Walmart says something that you don't like, as opposed to flying off the handle on her, you always have your breath, and you can focus on that.
Probably a price check thing where you're like, no, I know what this costs.
I'll tell you this.
That's why I said it.
It's nothing secret.
All right, so we can kind of skip through this. We're using our anchor and just observing so that we can get out of our heads for a second and put our own focus on something. We've got to be able to, I think in order for us to survive and be resilient in our profession, we've got to be able to hop out of our heads once it's destructive and once it's not productive anymore and get into focusing our attention elsewhere.
Yeah, so this training, it just showed the 8 weeks, some science behind it, why does mindfulness work, what happens when you meditate. So we'll watch the show, what happens to your body, to your mind when you do some type of meditation.
Can we actually do it?
Should be able to. There you go.
Hang on. I'm all done. Yeah. Okay, touch your body. You can do it.
How do we get volume?
Oh, you're, if you go down the bottom right, it looks like it's on mute.
No speakers or headphones are plugged in.
Just click on the link on the app.
Yeah, it's
It's
both
a minute
of them.
long, it just shows you exactly what meditation does for you.
Yeah.
All right, go to the next one. Here's a picture of a brain before and after a 10-minute meditation. This was a scan used that took a person's brain scan before, they did a 10-minute basic meditation, and this is what the brain looks like after. You can see the part of the brain with the orange and the yellow, where that focus is at, where those stressors are at, where that anxiety, those issues are at. Take a 10-minute meditation, breathing, and this is what it looks like afterwards. So it's science-based proof that works.
And not only that, but after 8 weeks, these changes become permanent. You don't have to, you can go through your day if you meditated earlier in the day and still, the changes that are occurring will be there all day long.
This is super important for us as first responders, as firefighters. To have a brain that looks like that on the right will make your decision-making so much more effective, the stressors after calls more effective, and when you go home, the most important part of your day is when you get off shift and go home to your family looking like that, because that's what we really want and really want to focus on, is how you are going to be a better spouse, significant other, mother, father. That's what's the most important, and that's really what we want to get out of this class, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we're just going to build on this very slowly and throughout the course of 8 weeks be able to integrate it in our personal lives. And one of the reasons we picked this was not everybody is into yoga, or not everybody's going to respond to different things that have mindfulness, but you can use it on anything. If you're into golf, if you're into woodworking, what do you do, Benji? What's your fabrication choice?
I was
Life
already
outside
tripping
of
out
work.
what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
see, exactly.
It's usually a trail run,
Yeah,
if I can get into the zone.
exactly. And that's what we like about this, is everybody's different, everybody's gonna use it differently, but we want you to be able to use it in your life. So we don't wanna force any one thing on you, we wanna force the concept and then have you integrate it in your life. So box breathing, we're starting with box breathing because it's used by Navy SEALs and Chuck Norris and the Hulk. And those are 3 awesome people that firefighters can get on board with. So if you want to be like any one of those 3 people, you can do it.
And it's simple, it's something you can do really anywhere. You can do it in your bunk room, in the weight room, I mean, there's multiple places you can do it at work. At home, obviously, is the easiest, but there's places at work as well.
And the SEALs, it really is something they teach in the very early stages of SEAL school. It's something that they use throughout their training. It's been vetted by them for years. So if they're using it
And
to stay calm in stressful situations, you know it works.
I was reading an article about Navy SEAL box breathing when they did the Bin Laden attacks. When they were, I forgot how long the helicopter ride was over to where they landed on the compound, but that's something that all the Navy SEALs were doing before that mission. Because I mean, how stressful is that going to be? And this is what they practiced before that mission. So I thought it was kind of cool.
My daughter's she's getting ready to go into the Navy and
Yeah,
working with some spec war guys out of Dayton.
it's awesome.
A couple of them are either current or work, special worker, whether they're with the army, whether they're SEALs. They even talk to the newer recruits that are going into the spec work programs. That was it, they mentioned the same.
Yeah, before you even get in, learn how to breathe,
Yeah,
because
they do
you've
it.
got to learn how to control yourself and regulate.
Yeah, it's magic how you feel after it.
Unfortunately, the link isn't going to work.
Well, we could probably use these speakers and plug this in, no?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's gonna, we could try it. If not, we'll walk you through it. What we're asking on this first week is do it twice a day, morning and night is your prescription for success. It takes about 5 minutes. Are you okay?
My arm is.
Do you need help? All right, we'll see if it plays. If it doesn't, I'll just walk you through it real basic. And then this is about all we have for you on the first one. It's all self-leadership. Do it, find time to do it, bust it out.
And we're gonna do a real short cycle. We'll do about 5 cycles, and it'll be a 5 count. It'll be 5 count inhale, hold for a 5 count, 5 count exhale, hold for a 5 count. If that is hard for you, you can take it down to a 4. If it's easy, maybe take it up to a 6 or an 8. Ultimately, we want to push the envelope so we can hold it for a 10, maybe 12, or even a 15 count. You can also play with the duration of the inhale hold and the exhale hold. It doesn't always have to be the same sequence, meaning it doesn't have to be 5, 5, 5, 5. I mean, we can do 5 count inhale, a 10 count hold, right? A 5 count exhale, and a 5 count hold on the exhale. So I encourage you to play with these things a little bit. This is a simple pranayama practice or breath control practice. Okay, so we'll start in a nice seated position, you know, like
Go along with you too.
victory pose or hero's pose, or sitting in back straight like a meditative posture. And we'll exhale all our air. And then we'll inhale. Hold. Exhale. Get it all out. Hold. Soften your gaze or close your eyes. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. If you find your mind wandering, you can click into a mantra. Keep it focused. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. One more second. Inhale. Hold for count 10. Exhale. Hold for 10. And release. Already feel much calmer. I do anyways.
There's another video, one of the things that he talks about too is breathing into your belly. That video was a little bit longer, so we didn't want to.
And we're going to do a real
so we didn't put it on there. But if you look up some of that Mark Devine Navy SEAL box breathing and you want to get, a little bit more in depth as to how to breathe, there's definitely some really good videos in there, as opposed to breathing into your chest, breathing into your belly, and getting your diaphragm out of the way. There's some really good stuff out there as well. We'll put a link on the app for you guys. Because that's really the key, is to getting that breath deep into your belly and being able to hold it for longer and longer.
And it's hard to do, it's hard to hold your breath for a while. I know it was for me for a while, but it's something that you'll get used to. Kind of feel like you're getting all lightheaded, but it works.
Yeah, and I'm not picking on Kurt, but I noticed you were leaning forward a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really one of those things where you have to sit in your chair, you have to keep your back straight, open up your lungs. You're even you're pushing your belly out when you're breathing in, and then you're trying to touch your belly button to your spine when you're breathing out. And we'll put that link on there, but there's definitely an art to the actual breathing part.
Awesome. So this might not be new for a lot of people, and that's fine. Use your practice and build on it. One of the things that, if you don't have a wait of time, we want to do this for 5 minutes, right? And we don't want to be stuck in our heads counting and all of that stuff. So I know an app that I use is Insight Timer. It's a free app, and it basically will start with the bell. It'll count down whatever minutes you want, and then it'll end with the bell. And both of them are just kind of soft bells, so that if you're going to sit down for 5 minutes and box breathe, all you want to do is box breathe. So all you want to do is work on those counts. You could even start with 4 seconds, and just, if that makes you feel more comfortable. Count, do that, and just keep doing it until the timer goes off. That way you don't have to worry about how many have I done, what time is it, all that stuff. So Insight Timer, if you don't have one. If you do, you can obviously do that on your phone too. I just like Insight Timer because the bells for on and off are a little more chill.
There's another one, Chief, called apnea trainer. To actually increase holding your breath, so that she'll talk like hold. You basically go in there, you say how long you want to do it, and you do it. And then at the end it says, was that easy or hard? And you say easy or hard, so then the next time it'll increase or decrease.
Perfect, and that's apnea?
Apnea, APNEA trainer. That one's pretty.
We'll put that one on there too. And there's one that there's a ton of them on there, but there's a box breathing app that I like. They almost make like a game out of it. It'll keep track of what you've done for the day, for the week, what your longest session is. It's pretty cool. We'll put that on there as well.
Yeah. So you got your logbooks. You don't want to take up much more of your time. I think this first week, as far as an actual class session, will be the longest out of all of them, because we had a lot of intro stuff to do and then the work. So subsequent weeks should be much shorter. We'd love to have as many people show up as possible, but here's where the work is. So if you pull out your logbook, what we're going to try to do for this first week is, let's go to the actual chart. So you've got the session 1 logbook at the very last page, should be. So we've got 3 things we're going to try to do. The box breathing, and this you can just kind of check the box or fill it out on your own, is 5 minutes a day, twice a day. So if you can sit down and box breathe, whenever it works for you, I'd recommend trying to do morning and evening. If you can't, but you find some time during the day, awesome, do it. And then just kind of check it. We left an observation box because you never know what you're going to experience or what's going to be hard, but if you can track it or say, I couldn't do it because of this, or I missed this day because of that, then write it down so we can help kind of work through it. Routine activities. So this is a fun one, and it takes 2 minutes max, but I want you guys to pick something very routine that you have to do anyway. Even work and policy says you have to brush your teeth because we have personal hygiene policy. So because everybody has to brush their teeth every day, that's going to take roughly 2 minutes, especially if you have a little toothbrush with the timer. While you're brushing your teeth, be present. Stand up, stand tall, shoulders back. What are you feeling? What are you smelling? What are you seeing? Just take all your external senses to ground you in the present for a very simple routine activity that you have to do anyway. It sounds easy, but it's very, very difficult. If you don't want to do your brushing your teeth this week, maybe washing your hair. Think of something you're going to have to do every single day anyway that takes a short amount of time. I wouldn't say go like the whole entire shower right now. I'd just say wash your hair, because that's going to be a simple one. Just be present right then. And then, like we talked about, the conscious listening. If you find yourself we all have to talk to people on a daily basis anyway. So those moments where you can say, okay, I'm just going to sit down and truly listen to what this person has going on. If you remember to do that, say I'm going to consciously listen in morning meeting, or while doing truck check, or while we're in the back of the ambulance, kind of just bullshit, and I'm going to consciously listen. Just kind of mark that you're able to do that.
Yeah, and this is on your own. Ideally, it'd be nice to get free to do 2 times a day, but just try your best with it, see what works for you, and just have fun with it. It works. So.
And there's no pass-fail. We gave you the ability to chart what you're doing basically for yourselves. We're not going to go back there and be like, Chief Cesaric only did this once a week, he's fired. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
It's
these
just
books
for
are for
you.
you to
Yeah,
keep.
these aren't being turned in or whatever. This is just for you all.
It's just a way to, and then it's a way to be real with yourself, because if you said, okay, I'm going to go through this in box breed, well, you should be able to do it 14 times before we meet again, right? If we're doing it twice a day. Yeah. If you only do it 10, just put down 10. If you only do it 4, put down 4, but track the fact that you're like, oh man, I couldn't find 5 minutes in my day to do this twice. Because then we want to start challenging some of those things and saying, this is going to be better for you than, if you feel that you can't find 5 or 10 minutes, scroll down to that piece of your phone that says how much screen time you've had today. Chances are you're in that 3-4 hour range. You can give 5 to 10 minutes of yourself to say, well, instead of 4 hours and 5 minutes, I'm gonna do 4 hours.
And we also want it to be, the classes for you, we want it to be as interactive as possible. So throughout the week, if you have questions or comments, concerns, there's something that you like or didn't like, and you want to talk to any one of us, if you feel more comfortable talking to Chris or Scott or me, feel free to call. You want to email. If there's something about the charting that you didn't like, if you want more space to make comments, we can make changes throughout the course. We want it to kind of be a fluid process.
We thank you guys for coming. This is something new. We're trying something out. We're going to give it a shot and go with it. So anything you feel we can do different, we can do better, we're open. We're very open to hearing that. And,
Yeah, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
any questions, real quick? Yes.
I just want to add something real quick. I went to the Firehouse World. Chief Grissom sent me and a few other guys up there, and all we did was the mental health stuff. And just to piggyback on the us beating ourselves up as first responders, there's all the shrinks and the counselors there were all either prior firefighters currently, or worked solely with fire departments. So one of the biggest things, especially since we got a new academy coming out and we got booters out there and new leaders, is the illusion of control is what's really messing up firefighters. Is, we do a CPR drill and somebody messes up, we're like, well, you killed that guy. Or if we have an AR and a house burns down to the ground, we're like, it's your fault that house burned to the ground. No, it's not. It's the fire's fault the house burned to the ground. Person's probably going to die anyway, stuff like that. So when we're beating each other up on drills or any type of drills or anything like that, it's giving that single person, that 19-year-old, the illusion of control that they have the ability to actually save that person's life, when all we can do is what we do. And that carries on to everything we do. So that's why we kind of beat ourselves up every day, where what could I have done better? This is that, it's my fault. Or if I go tomorrow at work and we get this call and it doesn't go this way, it's my fault. Or if things aren't going right at home, it's my fault. So everything is your fault, and you can't control any outside things other than your thoughts. That's pretty much the only thing you can control. So we put this illusion of control into young kids, old kids, different leadership positions, different firefighters. That it starts building that illusion of control, which is going to hurt them. I mean, Jose, we all thought if I would've done this, it wouldn't happen. We don't know that. You have no idea about that, so just think about that, whether it's come to like suicides, you know, sicknesses, family members, all that stuff. You have zero control about anything that happens, and so we gotta get away from that too, especially putting on, we got booters coming out, booters out there now, and the new people in the academy that are coming out. Like, you can't go out there training and tell them it's their fault that X, Y happened because they messed something up, because it's gonna shut them down and also
Yeah,
nothing's fire.
Great point. And as we unpack this throughout the weeks, we're gonna realize just how much our own bred culture is contributing to the damage we're doing to ourselves and other people. We do a lot of things well, a lot of things right, but that, you know, that's extreme ownership to the extreme, right? Is now, I'm going to show how much extreme ownership I have by faulting myself for every single thing that happens wrong. And that's when it becomes unhealthy. We want to take pride and ownership, and we want to be extreme in that, but we've also got to realize what is within our control and what isn't, and have that balance.
Yeah, we're all one, we're one big family, so be good to each other, man. Appreciate you checking out. Awesome.
See
Thanks,
you
guys.
next week. Thanks for hanging out.